Let's go to Throwback Thursday.
On Breakfast with Vossy and Brandy. Throwback Thursday.
He can't hang on. Armstrong, Australia, again, the gold medal. Oh my God, on the Duncan. And what a fantastic swim. The smartest swim I think I've ever seen anyone swim in the Olympics. Mate, we just beat 3 world record holders. How do you think I feel?
Unbelievable. Pandemonium there. Need to paint the picture before we welcome Duncan Armstrong. Goes to the 1988 Olympics, ranked, I think it was 46th in the world. Wins gold in the 200. Duncan Armstrong. Worked with Duncan back in the day. Duncan, welcome to Breakfast with Vossy and Brandy. It's been a while.
It's great to talk to you, gentlemen. Great to talk to you, Vossy. How are you, mate?
Yeah, no, we're going strong. Just can't believe. I feel like a Throwback Thursday. It's both a sign of respect, but it's also a bit disrespectful because it means that bloody hell, you achieved things a long, long time ago. It is now 36 years. It is 36 years, Duncan. Does it feel that long? Like that's almost 4 decades.
No, it doesn't feel that long, but when I look in the mirror, it looks that long. I've got to use a lot more moisturiser, I think. The 36 years is getting to me. But, no, swimming's one of those fantastic sports that it keeps you young because swimming trials are on at the moment in Brisbane for the Paris Olympics. And, you know, those kids are so young and so vibrant. Their energy keeps you young, Vossy. It's great.
Well, Duncan, I saw you on pool deck last night chatting about the race, the great race that kicked off the trials last night. And you're looking good, Dunk. You are looking good. Ariana Titmus and Molly O'Callaghan. What a race. And that's what I text our group text. I said, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it really was, Brandy. Like our women swimmers are really going at it. You know, the trials are a bit of a tricky event because you have to get first and second under a certain time to actually even go to the game. So it's a weird kind of pressure that you don't suffer through once you get to the actual Olympic Games and Paralympic Games. So our swimmers, you can tighten up a little bit, but our girls are just blowing through any of that mindset. And they're just going out there and duking it out, no matter whether it's the 400, the 200, the 100 freestyle. We're going to see the 50 tonight. And they're really leading the way in terms of how they apply their courage in racing. And they just want to beat each other. And 2 of them last night, Molly O and great Ariana Titmus, went under the old world record with a sizzling fast time of 1:52. You know, I remember being a young man wishing and hoping and working hard so I could swim a 1:52, and now our women swimmers are doing it. So a really, really big milestone for world swimming in the 200 metres freestyle last night. History in the making, and the big crowd on hand really loved it.
All right, now this is where the surprise kicks in. This is where Mike Munro now joins the program, and he brings out the big book. This is your life book he comes out with. Let's go back to your childhood, Duncan. Rockhampton born. When can you remember the first time you hopped in the pool to race? How old were you?
No, I can't actually remember that, mate. I can't remember not being at the swimming pool on a Wednesday night with my 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Dad was the chief timekeeper. Mum was the club secretary, and we were at the pool every single Wednesday. I know I can't remember ever not being at the pool on a Wednesday night in Rocky. It was just such a great family atmosphere, and all these men would come out of the mines and come down for a swim that night, and you know, it was a fantastic way to learn to love swimming and to play in the pool. So we were there all the time, and you know, my 2 brothers were my first targets. If I could get past them, then I was going to be somebody in my family. And I got them when I was about 12 years old, and then you know, becoming the fastest swimmer in the club by 13, I was really on my way.
Wow! So Duncan, now has it changed how you qualify for the Olympics? Because as Vossy said, is that right? You were ranked 46 in the world. How did you get through and qualify for the Olympics?
Yeah, I qualified in both the 200 and the 400, Brandy, and our qualifying times were a little bit softer, if you want to put it that way, back then, because we just didn't have the maturity and the numbers in swimming. You know, international travel was very expensive. We only went away, you know, once or twice a year. So, as a swimming industry, the swimming in Australia was a lot smaller. We weren't as good. And so when we did get good, it would be like one or two of us. We didn't have like this blanket juggernaut that the Swimming Australian team is at the moment. So our qualifying time was a little bit less. So being ranked 48th in the world or 46th in the world going into Seoul, I was still the fastest Australian and the fastest person in the Commonwealth.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, but
because
the 200,
you had one gold. You'd won gold in the Commonwealth Games a couple of years previous to that, didn't you? Yeah.
But not the 200.
Yeah, I won
not the 200
No,
individual.
2 goals, Brett. Yeah, 2 goals, Brandy. Thanks very much for watching. But
Well, I forgot the relay. Sorry, Duncan.
That's okay, mate. It's okay. It's all good. So I was still the fastest swimmer in the Commonwealth. So getting into Seoul, the Americans were just so dominant, and the Iron Curtain was still down. So we had the drug cheats over there in Russia and East Germany and Romania and all these sort of things. So we're up against it a little bit in the 80s.
There's so much I want to ask you about that. Well, okay, let's ask right now about that, because I've spoken to other. I remember speaking to Janelle Elford years ago, and when she looked right, and Chinese swimmer would spit at her feet and things like that. Did you observe things, and you looked at and you just knew they're cheating? Could you just tell?
Yeah. For me, the dead giveaway was you'd go to the World Championships and swim against some East German bloke that you'd never heard of, and you'd tear everybody apart. Then you wouldn't see him again 6 months later at another meet, and you wouldn't see him again for another year, and then you might see him again later on. But they just had this rotation of blokes you never heard of standing up in the blocks and winning gold in front of people like Matt Biondi and Michael Gross, and these real legends of the sport who applied their trade year in, year out and got better and better and better. So the drugs that sort of have a rhythm that you can notice where, for one season the drugs work really, really well on a bloke, and then the next season he keeps on getting tested and he keeps on getting tested dirty, so he can't get it out of his system quick enough, so he can't swim. So there was this rhythm that made you feel really uncomfortable. But you know what, boys, you just couldn't focus on it. The moment you focused on it, you're going to swim slower. And so you had to just ignore it. You had to just sort of like put it at the back of your mind and get on with it, because, there was Americans and Englishmen and Canadians and, all the Swedes and all these other guys doing the right thing who you still had to beat as well. So you just couldn't factor it in. The biggest ones who were affected by drugs in that era were our women like Janelle Elford, because the drugs worked so much better on women, especially in the swimming pool. So we had so many Australian girls who trained and trained and trained, were so dedicated, would go to games and get 4th and 5th, and the only ones in front of them are blokes from East Germany and Romania and Russia and stuff like that. And so, it's just an absolute crime what happened to our Australian women's team in that era when the chemicals were just too good with all the Eastern Bloc countries.
It's funny you say that. That wasn't only in swimming, was it? It was also in the athletics at that time, through
right
that era, our athletes. Now, in the final, Dunk, at Seoul, the 200 free, you had a trio of past and current world record holders. Where did you qualify in the final? What between 1 and 8, where were you in terms of speed?
So I was the fourth fastest qualifier. I was in heat number 14 in the morning, and I was up against Michael Gross, the current world record holder. And I was feeling so good that I just basically pulled up and jogged in, for want of a better term, just swam in easily the last 25. And so that landed me in lane number 4, right next to Matt Biondi in lane number 5. So it wasn't completely by design, but I knew that I had another gear to go, and I'd already broken my time in the heats and broken the Commonwealth record in the heats. So I dropped my time by a second and a half in the heats, and I was just basically cruising into the wall. So we were very confident that we had another gear to go once we got into the final, but I was 4th fastest qualifier in lane number 6.
Wow. Laurie Lawrence, his role, so because there's tactics to the final too, isn't there, that Laurie had a game. We should probably ask in more broad terms, the influence of Laurie Lawrence on you, Duncan. The audio we ran of Laurie is just out there. But he's one of a kind, but he must have had he's not just an eccentric, he must have been a pretty shrewd tactician and great coach as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Vossy. This is what we miss about Laurie. Laurie was an overwhelmingly professional, technical coach, but we see the cabaret all the time. We see the excitement, we see the passion, the drive, determination, and, we see the song and dance, but we forget Laurie was an absolute tactician and a master of it. And he had this factory of kids coming out winning at World Championships and Commonwealth Games and especially the Olympic Games. So he really knew the art of preparing a kid to the day every 4 years for races that took less than 2 minutes. So, that's an art for a coach to do consistently. And he would put 10 of his swim squad on the national team every 2 years. So there was Laurie Lawrence swimmers everywhere in the green and gold, going overseas, taking on the best and winning. And that sort of like overshadows just how technically brilliant he was. And so for my race in Seoul in 1988, we had a very, very strong tactic because we had such a big guy named Matt Biondi beside us. He was going to push a lot of water forward, and that meant he was going to give an advantage to whoever was following him. And Matt was sizzling fast. Like, he was the world record holder in the 2-lap, the 100 metres freestyle. He was stepping up to extend himself in the 400 metres freestyle. So we knew he was going to be soft the second half of the race because that's not where his value's at. His value is in the first half of the race, and it's all speed. And so when he dived in the water, he was going to steal that race by getting out so fast that we couldn't catch him. So Laurie devised this tactic that I would tuck under his arm, get in the trough of water that he was going to push forward. That was going to give us an advantage of a full body length and a half a lap if we could sit in that trough. So that was the tactic. The first 6 strokes, it came down to the first 6 strokes. The first 6 strokes, if I didn't get them right, the trough is gone and I wouldn't be able to find it, catch it, surf in it, and then I would have to struggle on. So that was the tactic. We knew days out we were going to do it as soon as he landed in lane 5. He knew that he was going to give me an advantage because in those days, if you're going to lead a race, you're going to give an advantage. And on the other side of him, on the other side of the lane from him, was the world record holder in the 400 metres freestyle. So he's not going anywhere near the Polish swimmer, Arthur Wodak. He's going to come over my side next to 46th in the world, Neville Nobody from Rocky, who doesn't even know my name. He's going to give me the advantage. He knows it. I know it. Everybody knows it. Now it comes down to if you're going to flinch because of the pressure or not, or if you're going to be brave enough to race out the first 100 metres. This is me. If I'm going to race out the first 100 metres faster than I've ever swum before, not knowing if I could get back in the last 100, that was the tactic.
So you just went as hard as you could to stick with Biondi, and then how late did you leave to pass him? When did you surprise the American by as you said, the Neville Nobody from Rockhampton? When did you surprise Matt Biondi? How late in the race?
Well, he was looking away from me on the 3rd lap, and I knew I was catching him on the 3rd lap because I was just feeling so good. He'd carried me through the first 100 metres, and I was feeling nothing. I was feeling no pain, and I was just coming into my value in the race, which is the last 75. So he's going downhill. Sorry, I'm going downhill at a pace, and he's now pushing it uphill. And so, I come into the last turn, and my last stroke, going into the 3rd turn with 1 lap to go, I can finally see across his back. His kick is so big, I've seen nobody. So I can finally see across his back, and the 2 other world record holders and everybody else is behind us. So I go into the 3rd turn knowing I'm sitting in 2nd spot. And so I hit this turn, and Brandy, it was the turn of my life. I hit that wall with everything I had. It was crisp. And I came out, got into my turn, got into the middle of the lane, and I'm not going to breathe on Biondi's side for the last lap. I'm not going to see him for 30 seconds. I'm not going to see anybody. Not 3 world record holders. I'm not even going to look at them. And I put my head down with 12 metres to swim. And I've been putting my head down to finish races since I was about 6 years old. So it all goes into automatic. I put my head down with 12 metres to swim. It was 10 strokes to the wall. I hit this perfect right-handed touch. And all the world record holders are on my left. I touch the wall with my right hand. I quickly have a look where the superstars are, and the water is still smooth. No one's disturbed it. No one is there.
Oh, how good.
And I'm the first one.
That is so good. I'm getting the feeling you've told that story before, Duncan. That's got the hairs on the back of the neck standing up. That is sensational. Can you put it in any more words? Because Brandy has won a premiership, but Olympic gold, the eyes of the world are on you. And you are. You've said you're the Neville Nobody from Rockhampton, and suddenly you are. The camera's on you. You're the winner. it's Olympic gold. You're the best in the world at that moment. I mean, how do you sum that up?
Just before you do, Duncan, just before you do, and Vossy said, was there any time in the lead up, and I know you said in the 80s you didn't go overseas that much, but was there any competition throughout the build up to where it was international, whether it was a world championship, where they might have got a look at you and thought, oh well, yeah, maybe he is a bit of a concern, this bloke?
No.
No. Okay. No. In a word, no.
There's no international. Like I swam the Pampax and I swam Matt a couple of times in relays and things like that. But there's literally dozens of hopefuls, mate. There's dozens of blokes who are ranked in the 20s and 30s and stuff like that are superstar like Gross and Biondi and there's other guys that are raced. There's thousands of contenders trying to knock them off the top of the hill. So, mate, I was just one face in many. But I was really confident, like I said before. Laurie and I, we'd worked really well together for years for that moment. So that's what the Olympic Games throws up. The Olympic Games throws up so much passion and drive and determination and work that's done in the dark that nobody ever sees. And then when you get to the big stage, if you get your peak right and your taper right and it's your day, everybody's a chance. And that's the wonderful thing about swimming, is that it's so hard to stay on top for long because you've got so much passion driving, taking the races off you.
Well, I just found that whole account, it just, as I said, spine-tingling. Did you, how quickly did you make eye contact with Laurie Lawrence on winning the gold?
Well, there's a couple of funny stories there, mate. Like, I didn't see Laurie until he came around behind the dais and started yelling at me while I was getting the Olympic gold medal. And I wish he hadn't have done that because it was very, very distracting and I was trying to have my moment. But there's a very funny story that Senator Graham Richardson, became the sports minister 3 weeks before the Seoul Olympic Games. And so they flew him over to Seoul and they rushed him out to the pool because I won on day one of competition. No one really expected it. No one was really ready for it. So they rushed the new sports minister out to the pool. Laurie has already been thrown in the pool at that stage. Has already been arrested inside the grandstand by one of the guards after throwing a fit, and they thought he was some sort of maniac. So they threw him out of the pool, but they didn't take his accreditation off him. So he ran around the pool and back in another entrance, ran down to the warm-up pool. Someone's thrown him in the pool, so he's wringing wet, having the time of his life, and they've stuck him straight in front of Senator Graham Richardson, who's been the sports minister for 3 weeks. The press is ready, and Laurie just goes him. Laurie lashes him. He just goes, basically, you people give us nothing. We've had to struggle with no financial support, and then you want to show up and get something off our gold medal? You can go F yourself. See you later. And for years, every time I saw Graham Richardson, he said, mate, I've still got a suntan from the spray Laurie gave me that day.
Wow.
And that's what Laurie was like, this swinging emotion about how far we've come. We've got the ultimate prize, and who's going to bask in the glory. So I didn't see Laurie for about 45 minutes to an hour, but it was a great moment when I did, because we were like a comedy act. We had so much adrenaline and so much euphoria going through our bodies, and the press was, really wanted to hear the story. It was an amazing day. And we just did this comedy act where we were just feeling no pain, and anything he said I cracked up at, and everything I said he cracked up at. And we sort of just held the press's attention with our great relationship and how much we enjoyed having a laugh.
I love to have a beer with Duncan. These are some of the texts coming in, Duncan, after your account. You're going to love this. Wow, it feels like I was there in the pool. What a story. This is the best throwback interview so far. Well done, Duncan. What about this one? I'm having a protein shake and warming down after that story from Duncan. Snackers at Canberra says, I was hanging off every word of Duncan's gold medal swim story. He says, with an F in front of it, awesome yarn. And that is the truth. That is the truth. Would you have been what you were without Laurie, Duncan?
No, I don't think so, Vossy. You get those coach swimmers relationships or coach footballer relationships that, and I'm sure Brandy felt like this with some of his coaches, it just makes sense. You've been in a couple of squads, you've been in a different team, but there's someone in your young athletic career who just basically can push every single button naturally. Like, I would go to the pool just not, I couldn't wait for what Laurie had for me. And there was other times where we had, whole seasons where the magic was gone and we had to fight for it in terms of the communication style and what we expected. But leading up to the Seoul Games and my best performances at the Commonwealth Games and World Championships, he was just the perfect coach for me. He was just tough and unrelenting, and I really needed that. I really wanted to be in the world's best squad, and I think Laurie put it together. And the type of swimmer that he had in the squad were kind of men that I wanted to be around, men and women that I wanted to be around. We thought the same way. We were uncompromising. It was tough. Laurie didn't take a backward step for anybody, and there was, blood, sweat, and tears a lot of the time with when you failed and when you didn't live up to possibly your potential. But Laurie had that magic gift of looking at a kid and seeing something inside them and being uncompromising until that kid found the resilience to bring it out. And that was me. He just didn't bar me from any of the hard work, but the access to hard work got me. The green and gold track sets that I was able to win in that squad because of that squad is absolutely true. And, to be on those teams, to be traveling to foreign lands, hearing the national anthem and you're responsible for it, it meant everything to me, and it meant everything to Laurie. So we were a very, very good fit right from the first lap I did with him.
Mm. Yep. I'll just do quickly. I was a very talented young. I was fast. I was a skillful player, but Phil Gould made me accountable. That was the key.
Yeah.
Well, Gus made me accountable.
Yeah, and Laurie used to come up with stuff like that all the time too, Brandy. He'd go, hey, man, talent is everywhere. There's more talent walking down any street in Australia than you've got, mate. But disciplined talent is rare. And you've got to line up and dig deep and get your discipline out of yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to be like every other talented loser on the street.
Isn't that the saying? Hard work beats talent when talent stops working hard. And
that's right.
And that's where it goes. Duncan, just a fantastic story. And life is good at the moment, mate. Just to wrap up, things are good?
Yeah, life is fantastic. I've got 5 kids. I got a beautiful wife. All the kids are very, very healthy and strong, which is a blessing. And I'm still fueling my wife after many years, which is a blessing too. So, mate, life is very, very good. Thanks.
Good on you.
Great yarn. Duncan, it's been fantastic chatting. Your recount of that gold medal doesn't get any better.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the program, Duncan.
Thanks very much, gentlemen. Very, very nice to be with you. See you.
Thanks, Duncan.
Duncan Armstrong, our Throwback Thursday guest on Breakfast with Vossy and Brandy.